folks. Your name? Well, I don't know if I'm speaking in Lafayette today.
Nope.
Saw a lot of sandbags though.
Looks like the weatherman got it wrong again.
You know, the first day we were talking about this, they showed the thing was way down here.
By Florida. By Florida.
By Florida. And all the spaghetti noodles were pointed directly at Lafayette. Where's it going in?
Well, this is the interesting part. I have on this phone the Weather Channel app, and I look directly at the weather radar live. Mm-hmm. They kept saying that there was a storm down by Yucatan that was coming north. And every time I looked at the Weather Channel actual radar, there wasn't nothing down there. There was this big boiling mass that was already sitting up here by Florida, and then it starts moving west. It didn't come up from underneath, it came west. So I don't know exactly what's going on.
Well, we know one thing. We might get a little rain tonight. Well, we definitely didn't get what they thought. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I know that you're intervening. You intervened when we got Trump as our president. But we need your strength. We need to be able to look to you for our strength. We should look to you for our strength. I don't know what country the Democrats and liberals came from, but it certainly wasn't the United States of America. And I pray that you somehow reach out and, I don't know, slap them over the head or something and get them to see what they're doing to our young people in the future that they won't have. In your name we pray. Amen. I want to start off tonight. There's a lot of things that have happened in this, well, there's always something happening because the other side, I hear statements from our governor about the Republicans and the party of no. I know the budget thing. I've been studying that now for 2.5 years. And I understand the budget process. And we're going to talk more about this later. But to hear a governor say that there was poor leadership in the House, and the Republicans were poor leadership.
Spoken like a true Democrat.
I call him a communist, but
interchangeable,
tell it like it is.
Well, the terms are interchangeable.
And as far as his honor code, well,
we know what type of honor code he has.
just listen to Moon about the honor code.
Yeah, the lie, cheat, and steal dumbbell.
But here's the thing. That's at the state level. Then we had some things happen in Washington, which we'll discuss more about, with Scalise and the whole thing at the baseball practice. And you have these, I don't know what's wrong with these people. You know, I mean, I have an article here tonight that we'll talk about, that one of the illustrious elitists said that it was self-inflicted. Really? He shot himself in the hip. CBS commentator. And then you had the elections, which, unbelievable, the Democrats really have a bad batting average in re-elections.
4-0.
4-0. But you know what? You know why the lady won in Georgia? It's because the rain kept the Democrats from coming to vote. And I hear intelligent statements like that.
They have nothing else.
I'm using it loosely. And I wonder, just what's going wrong? What in the world is going on? Look, I wasn't a big fan of Scalise's, but nobody deserves to get what he got. And the good news is he seems to be on the road to recovery. And we just have to continue to pray for him. I mean, when I hear people that are in leadership roles, like Pelosi, and who is that, one lady that said, you know, you should go hunt more Republicans?
Several of them have said that.
And
They have to be careful what they ask for.
I don't know about the rule of law anymore.
That's
The
gone.
rule of law does not exist, because if the rule of law existed, I'll give you a list. Clintons would be in jail. Obama would be deported. Susan Rice would be in jail. Valerie Jarrett would be in prison.
Most of the Obama administration would be in
Most
jail.
of the Obama administration would be in jail. And I don't understand. If Brett or I, and Brett has had his experience with the ATF at one time, and, you know, and I've had Homeland Security follow me out in New Orleans. I mean, we're little guys. We don't have all this big power and money. But it must scare them that we'll sit here on the show and tell the truth.
Ask Lavoy Finicum. Oh, wait, they assassinated him. That's
They
right.
assassinated him.
Yeah, they killed him.
Where was his gun?
Nowhere around.
Oh, that's our boy, isn't it? Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, God, he starts early. Is there a way to block that? But what I'm getting at is that, yeah.
Don't break.
But what I'm getting at is that this world is so crazy. And Brett talks, and we talk about it all the time. I'm telling you, what happened in D.C., what happened in Michigan, that's going to be the way of life. And it's going to get worse.
Oh, we're on escalation right now. Jumping from right here in front of me, the Philando Castile shooting, then going to the Alton Sterling shooting. The escalation of violence has resulted in communist assassinations done to police officers. Go ahead, go, man.
Hey, hold on. I don't get nothing on my screen here. I got off air.
We got everything supposedly running over here.
Reset your computer.
Yeah, Mr. T says it's running.
All righty.
We're checking on it right now.
I'm gonna turn it off and turn it back on.
Okay, we're checking over here.
All righty.
All right, buddy.
But getting back to the point that I was making is that the Castile shooting and the Sterling shooting have shown.
Still talking about what parish is he in?
Acadia.
Katie.
And the shootings have led to the assassinations of police officers and escalating violence on the part of the left-wing communists. And now that has culminated in the shooting of Steve Scalise. Now,
And others.
yeah, now, here is what the interesting parts about the Scalise shooting are. Number one, MSNBC and CBS have implied that Scalise had it coming. And again, folks, these are the first shots of World War III, Civil War II, depending on how you're counting.
Well, we keep shooting down planes and
Yep.
stuff in Syria. There's going to be World War III.
According to Fort Belch and Itch, Scalise is not a terrorist. Now, Mr. T and all of us were discussing this before the show. Terrorism is an act of violence or a threatened act of violence that is carried out to further a ideological, religious, or political goal. And that is what this man did. He had a hit list. He had motivations that he demonstrated on Facebook and other mediums, and he fits the definition to a T. Now, he had a hit list. Now, one question that we have asked over here, everybody has said that the guards are heroic, the guards are this, the guards are that. Folks, I'm gonna pose something to you, and you ponder on this. You got two uniformed armed police officers whose specific goal is to bodyguard Steve Scalise. They let this guy get off 50 to 60 shots. And then they took him out. I'm gonna throw it out there, and then you figure it out. Because I can tell you right now that any shooter worth his salt at the distances from that gunman should have, at the very minimum, with two officers, been able to throw enough lead at him to make him duck and cover and then advance on him and get him. They should have been able to get that guy, and they didn't. So I don't know what the real story is or whether there was anything else to it, but all I can tell you, folks, is those are the facts. And they should not have had that man be able to shoot that many rounds without something happening, because the actual tape of the shooting was available, and you can listen to the pace of the shots. And he
enter the group number that you wish.
And he took his time in doing this. Now, here goes some other things about that. The shooter was an abusive alcoholic that was reported by his foster daughter, who was the victim of the abuse. Now, this gunman, who is a liberal Democrat, communist, physically visited Bernie Sanders' office before the shooting. And it's pretty interesting because other Democrats have stated that they want to hunt Republicans, that Democrat leadership has approved violence toward Republicans, and they want to hunt Republicans. Folks, we've never heard this in American history. Yes, the 60s were violent, they were tumultuous, and we had lots of things, but folks, it is pretty amazing that we now have people in political power who are instigating and approving of the use of violence to hunt down other members of the political process.
But you see, that's what I was just talking about. First of all, you have a play.
Yes.
You have a play. Where is that at?
I don't know where they were conducting it, but they're practicing the assassination of Trump.
And you're showing the assassination of the President of the United States. Now, they ran into, the other night, a guy came out of the audience.
It's been happening more than that, about 3 times.
And went up there and disrupted the play.
Now, here's the interesting part of all of this, and I read this on Facebook and I wrote this down. Folks, this is the most prophetic thing I have read lately. Only in America would liberals shoot conservatives, then propose as a remedy that conservatives be disarmed. And that's it, word for word. Folks, you just can't make this up. I killed the sound, so we're good. You just can't make this up, folks. You just cannot make this stuff up. And it just gets better and better and better because, folks, these Democrats, by their own actions, by their words, and by the rhetoric that's coming out, are showing themselves, they're showing how evil they truly are. Folks, we do not have the Democrat Party of old. We have Democrats who have been hijacked by communists, who are evil, who are preaching evil, who are doing evil. And folks, that's why God gave us Trump, to step in.
Well, we got a 22-year-old back from North Korea that died.
Brain damaged.
Yeah.
And by the way, that can also be done by having been choked, because you can choke a person to brain damage too, and no marks on the outside.
But I mean, I want to know, I won't do it. Not going to test the waters that well. But what would happen if one of us on this show threatened the President of the United States? What do you think would happen? Would be a vehicle out there before we would.
Think LeVar Finicum, who is unarmed, riding with other unarmed people, and is basically assassinated by the FBI. Now, people always ask me, well, why can't people do something about these jihadis, or do something about this, or do something about that? Every Islamic jihadi who has committed a mass act of terror in this country in the last 5 years was known to the authorities. They had interviewed them, they had them on a watch list, and they chose to do nothing.
Go ahead.
Hey,
Yeah.
you Turner?
Who?
T.
Yeah.
I thought I pressed 1 to talk to him. I wanted to see, cause I'm getting on Ustream, and I got the AOC and all that, but all I'm getting is that commercial that runs before. I'm not getting nothing at the show.
They're working on it.
Oh, they're working on it?
That's the best I can tell you.
Okay, well, I'll have him another glass of water.
Okay?
All right, buddy.
All righty. See y'all later.
Bye.
Every one of these jihadis, in every one of these crimes, and in England, all of the people who have just committed those jihadi type crimes are known to the authorities. What does that tell you? If the authorities have interviewed these people, had them under surveillance, had them on a watch list, they let the Orlando shooter, I believe his name was Mateen, get on a plane with a gun, check through the luggage to go down there, who's on a terrorist watch list.
Every
Folks,
one of these guys has been on a watch list.
Folks, what this
that did this crime.
all you can draw from the available evidence is the government is supervising and allowing these acts to occur. Because England, they are arresting people on the computer for hate speech against Islam, but not arresting the people doing the damage. They arrested 12 people. 12 people in regards to one of those last big mass events. They let them all go.
Yeah, and think about the guy that drove his car and took out a few Muslims at the mosque.
Oh yeah, hang on, got his name right here. His name was Darren Osborne, and that was very interesting, because what was that about? We haven't heard Pakal about that. What is all that about?
Do you realize how many cities in England
Have Muslim
have
mayors.
Muslim mayors?
That probably more than 20 cities have Muslim mayors.
So tell me, what is the Queen doing about this?
Counting her money. And trying to keep her husband from goose-stepping around the palace in his Nazi uniform that he likes to wear. They're all worried about their satanic activities and furthering their pockets. That's all that's about. They're not worried about anything else.
But I still go back to this deal. There's so much stuff. I have never, and I have never seen such hatred, outright hatred towards a president.
Jim, we are at an epoch in history. We are at a point in history, Jim, where we have two irreconcilable forces, one of which are dirty, lying, low-down skunks who will say and do anything to have a communist dictatorship in this country. And that is what their goal is, Jim, is a communist dictatorship
Oh, yeah.
with autocratic rule. And that's what Democrats want. These are not the Democrats of old.
Actually, we need to clarify that. There are Republicans. There are Republicans that are just as bad.
No, not just as bad. They're almost. Because it's not the Republicans out in the streets that are killing people and doing this. It's Democrats.
Right.
But there are Republicans who are allowing
McCain.
this stuff. Well, they're allowing it to happen.
Yes, and they're also making threats to the president.
And by the way, did y'all know that McCain's been taking money from some of the Soros-based Clinton donors?
Oh, my.
It's amazing. Mr. McCain, whose wife has got more zeros behind her name than God knows, she owns, I think, Anheuser-Busch, and he is taking money from Clinton donors from Soros, bought and paid for. Amazing.
And Jeff Flake, who's running for re-election,
He's a real flake from what I
I
hear.
wonder where his money's coming from.
Yep, I hear he's a Soros boy, and so is the sheriff down in,
Through McCain.
yep, I hear the sheriff down there in Phoenix that beat Arpaio. That's all Soros money.
It was all Soros money.
Folks, we have big-time communists who are working to undermine this country and overthrow capitalism. And folks, the only thing left on Alinsky's Rules for Radicals and the Communist Manifesto, the only goal they have not achieved is stripping us of our firearms. They have achieved every other goal on it. Jim has gone into detail about this. They have stripped everything that you can think of. They have taken over healthcare, they have taken over the schools, they have seized private property, they have made us serfs and vassals of the government. Because folks, if you go back to the drawing up of the Constitution, some of the simplest legal concepts that they dealt with was private property ownership. The right to be secure in your home from unreasonable search and seizure. Well, folks,
Not today.
if the SWAT team gets the no-knock warrant wrong and kicks the wrong door in, and the homeowner thinks he's being burglarized, they can murder the homeowner. Oh, sorry, you're dead. You're done. And nothing
This has
happens.
happened in many, many cases.
And nothing happens. Oh, and what about the epidemic of dog shooting in this country? The police go to your house for whatever reason and just choose to shoot your dog. Now, somebody just won a $2 million judgment against some cops for killing a dog. Now, I don't know if it'll pay off, and I don't know what all will happen with that situation, but the people were awarded $2 million because the dog didn't growl, didn't try to bite anybody, didn't do anything except stand there, and the officer gleefully shot it and said he was happy to do it. Folks, there's something wrong with people like that. I have been to many, many, many houses, many, and I have always gone and tried to contact the owner, and I have never yet had to shoot a dog. A couple of them got sprayed with pepper spray, which worked pretty good, but I have never had to shoot a dog in my 29 years. And I'm sure I had plenty of opportunities if I'd have been in the mindset like some of these jacklegs today. But there's no excuse for killing people's pets. That's a member of the family.
I mean, we just wonder what's going on. Now, I saw a good little joke on Facebook today that fits in with the election. They said, yeah, the reason she won is that Russia is right next to Georgia. Now, when you think about the country, that's a good one.
You know, Jim, the person...
Georgia is a state by the Soviet Union, by the Russians.
Jim, the person who said that was obviously looking out from behind their belt buckle and had to open the belt
It
buckle
was
to...
done as a joke. I know the guy that put it on there.
Well, there's some people who believe that.
But I mean, that's how it's gotten to. You look at things like the Russians controlled our voting. But
It's
you know what I
physically
read
impossible.
Today? You know what I read today? There's a research company or something in New Jersey, and they found unbelievable amounts of voter fraud. What do you think?
But nobody wants to look at that. It's the Russia thing. It's the Russia thing.
But they're looking for the Russia thing. Look, we said it, and T knows that in order to reset voting in the voting machines, you would have to hook up a USB cable.
Yeah, they're not on the internet. None of them. They're all
They're not on the
individual
internet.
computers. There is no way to mass...
Hook up a USB thing to each voting machine.
There's no way to do a mass hack like you do with a computer network, because they're not on a network.
And I mean,
It just doesn't make sense. And educated people should know better than that.
well, it isn't so much the educated thing as what we...
No, we got educated
we had the
Democrats who
joke-
believe this crap. We've
Oh,
got
yeah.
people who believe this crap.
But here's the deal. We went through that whole Marxism and Solinsky's Rules for Radicals, and that's what they do. That is what I see more and more people are understanding about the Marxist things that are going on. And that's how they do it. How long has this been going on about the Russian thing? Have you seen one, I'm telling you, one concrete piece of paper or tape or whatever, email, that says Trump had the Russians interfere. If anybody interfered, it was Clinton
And Obama.
and Obama.
Look at Bernie. They interfered in the primary election to falsify votes. They didn't count millions of votes that were for Bernie, so that Her Majesty Hillary would get there.
I mean, and then you look at the fiasco with the Bernie and the primary thing, and then you look at Clinton, and you start to look at how many illegals voted. In California, they think 20% of her vote was all illegals,
And that's probably low.
and that's probably a low estimation. But when you look at the number of illegals in California, that's probably a pretty big number.
And remember, Jim, we have a U.S. prosecutor, U.S. attorney down in Florida that just washed up dead 2 weeks ago investigating voter fraud.
It's, when you get into this, and we're going to talk a little more about this later, but he called me up and told me this documentary was on the Discovery Channel, and I watched it. And I'm telling you, if you get a chance, the war on drugs, you need to watch it on the Discovery Channel.
Folks, it's a 2-night, 2 hours each special, and what it does is it covers from the Nixon era up to Daddy Bush and Daddy Bush to present. And the reason why I called Jim and wanted him to see it, we've always talked about it, and I've always thrown these facts out to people, but it puts third-party witnesses who were there speaking about what
All
was about.
actually were put in jail.
Well, some yes, some ended up worse than jail.
Yeah.
Folks, one of the things that we have always talked about is the Reagan era and the drugs. Now, one of the things that I learned, I always knew that Ollie North was the single individual
That was shocking.
coordinating all of the U.S. military flights into the Panama base, our air base in Panama, were American military flights carrying tons of cocaine to sell, to buy guns, because the Boland Amendment in Congress prevented Reagan's administration from directly giving Anastasio Somoza and his rebels fighting the Sandinistas guns. Now, the Sandinistas were the communists. And we're fighting communism, folks. Anything we do is justified when we fight communism. So a DEA agent is on the ground down there, and he says they got more military planes carrying cocaine than they got regular air traffic at the New York O'Hare Airport.
Well,
And they showed film of it. This guy in the video actually talked to Daddy Bush at a political function and told him about it. It's a miracle he's still alive. But here is what I did not know, folks. I knew Ollie North was all this. He was a lieutenant colonel. He was in the Marines. He was this. He was that. What I learned from this is Ollie North wasn't just the nobody scapegoat. Ollie North was on Ronald Reagan's cabinet.
did you hear that?
He was
Ronald Reagan.
He was a cabinet level official. Folks, that's the inner circle of Ronald Reagan. Everybody always said, oh, Ronald Reagan was the clean Republican. He didn't know anything about that. Bull! Bull! He was on the cabinet. Reagan had to know what was going on. And all that cocaine was flying south, and it was being sold. Folks, from the original war on drugs all the way through Daddy Bush, from Reagan all the way through Clinton. Clinton created NAFTA. What did NAFTA do? It made it easier for trucks to come from Mexico carrying the cocaine, because this is what happened. Miami got too hot with people chasing them down, so what did Clinton do? Clinton does NAFTA, so all of the drug dealing switches over. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, thanks for taking my call. I never thought I'd live to see the day what's going on in this country now, you know. It's
Us either.
unbelievable.
Oh, no.
Jim is always shaking his head going, where we have fallen to.
I never thought I'd live to see this day. I mean, it's awful, you know.
But you know what, caller? I have to put blame where it is. I was not even a dewdrop on Daddy's pillow when the World War II vets came back from World War II, celebrated their great victory, and then went to sleep and let the communists take us the hell over.
Right.
Because Joe McCarthy, he blew the trumpet. He said, we are infiltrated. And they laughed him off and put him off as a drunk. And the World War II vets went to sleep. And now my generation's going to have to fight Civil War II because they went to sleep and they came back and rested on their laurels. And that's what happened.
Right. And, you know, talking about terrorists, well, really, if you want to look at it right, we have two groups of terrorists in this country that you got to keep an eye on.
Three.
Well, you got the ISIS, you know, and then you also have the Democrats, the left-wing radical Democrats. When they want something, they'll hit the streets, tear up everything, burn, loot,
That's Antifa.
rob, you know, and injure people. I mean, if that's not terrorism, I don't know what you
Wait,
call
you
it.
got a third group who blocks overpasses and roads called Black Lives Matter.
Mhm.
That's three groups.
They're just as bad as the ISIS terrorists, you know.
Yes, they are.
If not worse.
Yes, they are. You are correct.
And you know, you're talking about these communists taking over this country. It's happening now. You know, it's going on.
Well, I think the realization of the 4 wins and 0 loss and the losses for the Democrats, I don't think that's as big an indicator of things as some people think it is. I think it's great that happened, but how do I know those Republicans, this is my question, how do I know those Republicans are going to act like Republicans? I
Well,
don't know that today.
we now know that we have McCain, the Cornyn's, the Lindsey Grahams,
Flake.
the McConnells, the Jeff Flakes, the Ryans, who show they will not act as Republicans. They will do what it takes to line their pockets.
I'll tell you what, watching that documentary answered a lot of questions for me.
It's depressing, but it's reality.
That documentary, the realization of what is actually going on, and I was thinking, why is it so important? It's not about this country. It's about the dang money. And they're losing money right now with Trump in office.
Yep.
I mean, I've never heard a president even in 6 months and all you hear is impeach him, impeach him, impeach him, obstructionist, doing this. You know where he's an obstructionist? He's an obstructionist to the Democrats.
And you know, if they do impeach Trump, what do they have in mind? I mean, who they're going to get for president? You know, will it be Hillary Clinton?
Sure.
No, it won't be
What do you
Hillary,
think
it'll
there?
be Pence. Pence will be the president. They're not
They'll
going
just want to impeach him too.
Well, yeah. They don't want a Republican in there because they can't do their change us into a socialistic world. And you know what? People need to wake up. All you got to do is look at Venezuela, one of the richest oil countries in the world.
Bernie's utopia. And you know what is going on, Jim? The rich folks are down there eating caviar and sipping champagne while the rest of the country burns and fights and can barely get a loaf of bread.
And eats out of the garbage.
And they wonder why people want to get rowdy. But don't worry, folks, we're not far off from that. Look at the country of Argentina back in the 90s when they went through their political escapades. They were wealthier than we are, and they still haven't fully recovered. And that was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Almost.
And another comment I wanted to make about the election in Georgia, you know, the Karen Handel.
$31 million spent by left wing.
Yeah, well, they made the excuse it was bad weather for the Democrats. Well, what about the Republicans? I mean, it was bad weather for them also.
Caller, don't worry. It's been bad weather for the last 4 Democrat races.
It just, Yeah, that's right.
I mean, when you hear a statement like that, it shows the genuine stupidity of these announcers. Mad Cow, I call her Mad Cow, I don't know what the heck her name is,
Rachel Maddow, but
is the one that said that.
it's appropriate.
And I'm like, really? I mean, do these people actually believe what they say?
I mean, these Democrats, I mean, they're all a bunch of psycho cases, I mean, I think every one of them got mental problems, I mean.
Well, then you have Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren.
I mean, they just won't accept defeat,
Well, it's not so
I
much.
think they're living in a make-believe world,
Well, actually, they do. They live in a very, very rich communist world that is very far from reality. That we are just their little servant people, and we're just here to give them our money and to support whatever they want to do. And the good one world government people, the Soros types,
Well, when you
good
see
communists,
when you see Chucky Schumer meeting with
Soros' son.
Soros' son, what in the world does that tell you?
Yep.
Well, good show tonight, guys. Just keep up the good work.
All right, we
We're gonna
appreciate
stay
the
after
phone
it.
call, sir.
And folks, here's something else that came out of that show that was very interesting. The war on drugs facilitated the rise of crack cocaine, the rise of heroin back into a major drug, and the rise of methamphetamines. But here's an interesting stat they put out. Back then, in 1991, an estimated 90% of the black people living in LA were somehow involved in the use or sale of drugs.
Jeez.
90% of the people in the hood. 90%.
Crips in the Bloods.
Well, and then, if you remember on the show, they were just part of the equation. You got the Mexican mafia, and you had then you had MS-13. See, one of the things that show did not go into detail on, but should have, is under the Bush administration up to now, MS-13 has controlled our southern border since the Bush administration. We have a major narco-terrorist network that controls the whole southern border. And if you go down to South Texas, and I have friends down there, and you check into things, the South Texas people can tell you that the deputies down there, some of them have more combat experience than some of our forces in Iraq. And by the way, there have been more violence on the border than there actually has been in Iraq, because there's a guy who runs a web page by the name of Ed's Manifesto, and the guy who runs it is Ed Calderon.
Please enter the group number that you wish to.
Now, Ed is a former drug task force soldier of it, you can put it like that, and he has seen more violence. And if you start tallying up the dead people from all of that violence, it far outstrips the war dead from Iraq. It is amazing how bad things are on that border, and our government ignores it. It's amazing.
That's amazing. To have an ignorant butt. Just leave it ring. Watching that show, learning different things, watching when they did the part on the LA games, you brought a good point out. That's not the problem. The Crips and the Bloods and all of them were not the problem. By them saying, oh, well, we're going to be brothers and we're not going to kill each other.
You're right.
How long did that last? 2 days.
Uh-huh.
It lasted 2 days. I mean, I will tell you this. A little country boy in Pennsylvania. In the last 9 years, I have had such an eye-opening experience in learning about my government and our country. And the sad part is that we all lived, most of us that worked, lived a decent life, had a home, a car, were able to enjoy things. And the sad part was, we weren't paying attention.
But you know what the thing is, Jim? The people outside of law enforcement and those living in the hood don't know. I once read something that only a certain group of people know the truth about what actually goes on. The cops, the ER doctors and nurses, the social workers, the school teachers, and the priests. They are the only people who truly see society at its worst. And I'll give you an example. If you watch this special, you're going to see certain groups of Democrats talk about how they were made out to be victims by crack and all this stuff. I call bull. I have interviewed numerous drug dealers and drug users on probation over the last 20 years, folks, face to face. I've supervised them. I've been in their communities. That is a load of pig feces. That is a load of stuff. Nobody put a gun to anybody's head to make them sell crack. Not use it, sell it. They did it because the money was outstanding. My old partner and I had a young man who came and talked to us one day who was making $3,000 to $4,000 a week, and his mama was still getting her food stamps, and they still got free medical care and lived in $8 a month housing. So folks, it was very interesting to talk to this young man because you can't tell them, well, son, you might get killed. He don't care. His mama don't care because she enjoys the benefits of the crack. She's driving an Escalade. Junior's 16 years old. He's driving a Jaguar, got gold around his neck. And he told my partner, why do you want me to be in your white bread world? You're broke back, went to college for 4 years, went to regular school for 12. I make $3,000, $4,000 a week. I got 2 fine hoes. I got a gun in my belt and gold around my neck. Why do I want anything you got? I stay up all night. I have fun. I play. I do what I want. I don't care if I don't go to school. I'm making my money, and I don't care what you think. I don't want to be in your world. So all the stuff that we were told and taught about this stuff, about racial sensitivity, was actually a bunch of hogwash because the people in the hood like the lifestyle they live. They're making boatloads of cash. Well, do the math. If you're making $4,000 a week tax-free and you're getting free medicals from everybody else and you're already driving a Beamer or an Escalade or a Cadillac, and for those of you who don't believe me, I suggest that you go set up outside the local food stamp office for a couple of days, and I suggest that you watch how many Jaguars, Mercedes, Escalades, and BMWs and Cadillacs drive up to that food stamp office to get their food stamps. And
What?
And then what I want you to do is examine the people walking in who all have the $100 hairdos, the $80 custom nail jobs, and all of the fancy clothes, and the $800 iPhones. And all of these people live in the hood and are getting food stamps and welfare, and their kids are getting SSI, and that used to be, $525 a kid. It's gone up now. I had people in my caseload one time who had 5 kids times $525 a month plus free medicals in the 90s. Yep. And everybody was in trouble, and everybody was a mess. But I submit, folks, that these claiming a victim, that's all Jim's communism at work. They claim to be victims so they can get the free stuff from the government, from the other people, from us, the working class. And it works. It works well. And all of this drug stuff, all of this stuff has been done just to enrich the power elites like the Reagans, the Bushes, and all the rest of these people. They're just getting rich. Write that one down a minute.
What?
We'll write that number down on the callback as well. There you go. Same one before.
I wrote it down. They
No,
got it.
there's another one in there coming. There'll be another one. But the gist of it is, folks, all of this is a very insidious plan so that certain groups can get the free stuff, as they say, and that the rest of us end up paying. That was what the the whole global warming scheme was. $100 billion from us going to foreign countries over a supposed green agenda. But wait, we're the only ones who followed it. China don't follow it. Nobody else follows that green agenda. So Trump was correct when it was going to cost us $100 billion a year. And for what? It's a big Ponzi scheme. Obama's Solyndra was another one that milked us for money. Amazing, huh? Mm-hmm. It was amazing. So, folks, getting into a few more interesting subjects. Do we want to talk about anything going on in the state right now?
We can. It's the budget.
Well, I've got an interesting thing here that was pretty interesting thing that in a speech, little Mitch Landrieu was protesting the Crescent City Club and the White League of New Orleans. Well, folks, here is the truth about that, not the racist drivel that little Mitch puts out. Members of the New Orleans Democratic Club gathered on September the 14th, 1874 at noon near the Canal Street docks to protest voter suppression, crime, high taxes on property causing record foreclosures, corruption, lack of education, and gun confiscation. You know, Mitch could have been running this stuff. Mm-hmm. He's a good Democrat. There was so much voter fraud in Louisiana in 1872 that the U.S. Congress refused to count the electoral votes of Louisiana, and by December 1872, the Republican Reconstruction governor was impeached. Still in 1874, problems existed, so the committee, known as the White League, numbered about 30 members. Another 2,500 citizens responded to an ad they ran in the paper on September the 13th asking for businesses to close at noon on the 14th and joined a rally at the River and Canal Street, and the total turnout was 2,500 people estimated. At 4 p.m., the Metropolitan Police, at the time New Orleans did not have its own police department and was under a regional police force with Jefferson and St. Bernard parishes. Now, these are the Democrats, by the way, cutting up. These are the Republicans that are cutting up at that time. The Republican Reconstructionist government under Lincoln came down Decatur Street with a Gatling gun and two 12-pound cannons. For 15 minutes, the police fired on citizens, and cleverly some citizens ran around the Mississippi River and fired from the flanks of the police, who then took off. 11 police were killed along with 13 citizens, and all of those that died were white. As opposed to what little Mitch says. More lies told by him. Another 60 were wounded. This is the full violence of the battle. Now, the September 16th Picayune newspaper stated that all those who fell fighting so gallantly against our oppressors, the people of Louisiana already proposed to erect a monument on the 14th of September 1874, and the devotion of those loyal sons will long be remembered in the hearts of those who are living. But it is well to commemorate such deeds as they have done, to let those who live after they have passed away know that in this age of submission to despots, there are still a few who dare to defy the rod of tyrants. So, in 1882, the City Council of New Orleans passed an ordinance dedicating that portion of the neutral ground between Wells and Delta Streets to the erection of a monument known as Liberty Place in honor of those who fell in defense of civil liberty and home rule in that heroic and successful struggle of the 14th of September 1874. The monument was completed and erected in 1891, and there's a published list of names who raised the funds. And this was taken from a book published in 1955, which is called The Battle of Liberty Place, which is a far, far different version than what Mayor Mitch Landrieu and his Urban League have told the media about this event. Mayor Landrieu has his version posted on the New Orleans Tricentennial website. And in 1990, the names of the police officers were added to the monument. But Mayor Landrieu and his urban league have described it as an attack by a white supremacy group on a black police force, and that the ladies who raised the funds to do the monument were doing that to send a message to blacks. There is nothing further from the truth. Mitch Landrieu is a race-baiting, lying little snake, and he just can't seem to get the truth together, nor can he get his own city under control with the crime that is going on.
It just gets better and better in New Orleans.
Well, you know, when you have a turd in charge, what you going to do?
Well, since we're putting out all this good stuff here, let's put something out really good.
Yep.
Liberals started screaming, Chick-fil-A restaurant owner does the unimaginable to his employees. Now, when you read the headlines, you're thinking, oh, God. You know how awful Chick-fil-A is as a company, right? How the late founder, Estrua Cathy, raised the ire of many because he was unabashed in his opinion of traditional marriage, practically a crime nowadays in the US of A. And the company proudly closes on Sundays to observe the Sabbath, a quaint, obsolete idea to many. Besides, Chick-fil-A is a corporation, and corporations are evil, greedy, money-hungry monsters, right?
I thought that applied to the Democrats under Soros and Mitch Landrieu.
Well, okay, the rules. How do you explain this one? A Chick-fil-A owner recently had to shut down his Austin, Texas restaurant for 5 months for renovations, according to the Business Insider. Instead of temporarily laying off his 50 workers, Jeff Glover shocked his staff by continuing to pay them. During the entire 5 months, the restaurant would be closed. ABC affiliate KVUE reports Glover even gave them a $1 per hour raise for sticking with him. It would be a real financial crisis for the 50 good guys do not finish. Something missing here. Would be a real financial crisis for the 50. Good guys do finish first after all. According to QSR, Chick-fil-A dominates fast food, generating more revenue per restaurant than any other fast food chain in the U.S. And they have darn tasty food.
Here's another call. Well, we'll wait till they call back. That was a different number. We'll see if that's actually legit.
Yep. Sorry if we hung you up.
Yeah, we've had a deluge of stupidity on the phone, so
Yeah.
communist ignorance abounds.
If we happened to shut you off and you weren't part of the whatever else is going on.
Yep.
But there's so many different things. This CBS News anchor,
Oh, yeah.
we got left a couple minutes. CBS News anchor asked if GOP shooting was self-inflicted. Now, he did his last news anchor on last Friday.
How dumb does it get?
And honestly, to shoot yourself, I mean, you can't help stupidity. Mr. Pelly, they say Mr., they're using that term loosely, who ended his 6-year run as CBS evening news anchor Friday night, declared during his closing monologue Thursday that now is the time to ask whether last week's attack was foreseeable, predictable, and to some degree self-inflicted. In other words, the Republicans caused this.
Yeah, not taking any responsibility for the Antifa, the BLM, and the other little white snowflake communists who are out doing the actual damage and actually committing the violence. It's all Republicans' fault. You know, if y'all wouldn't have went and y'all wouldn't have said that stuff, we wouldn't be out there being violent.
Too many leaders and political commentators who set an example for us to follow have led us into a abyss of violent rhetoric, which, it should be no surprise, has led to violence. Mr. Pelly said, they're part of it. According to a transcript posted by Newsbusters, yesterday was not the first time. In December last year, a man with an assault rifle stormed into Washington area pizzeria to free child slaves whom Hillary Clinton was holding there. Or at least that's what political blog sites had said. He fired into a locked door to discover no children in chains. He continued, Senator Bernie Sanders has called the president the most dangerous in history. The shooter yesterday was a Sanders volunteer. You see, he's going to be now full-time on 60 Minutes. This ought
Please enter the group number that you...
to be good. This is the kind of crowd that, I'm telling you, it's people like him and Mad Cow. I call her Mad Cow because there can't be any other.
That's what everybody else calls her.
Mad Cow and people like that spew all the hatred and stuff and then want to blame it on Trump. And he's trying to do the right thing and bring this country back to the great country it is and stop all this foolishness. You know, is he perfect? I don't know, but we got a lot more. There are a lot of distractions this half hour or this